And this is something we did right about this time last year because summer workouts are up and going. I'm sure that OU's players are having all kinds of fun with Jerry Schmidt and going through those workouts. But you've got a couple of weeks of summer workouts in the books now, and this is kind of a fun topic. Guys that need to have a great summer. And so not necessarily the obvious ones. Like clearly Dylan Gabriel, you need QB1 to have a great summer. Right? You need him to develop leadership, and you need him to develop chemistry with his receivers, with all the 7-on-7 sessions and all that stuff. Yeah, that's obvious, but this is more of a discussion about a conversation about guys that maybe haven't had a significant impact, that need to make some strides this summer and heading into training camp to where they're contributors, or maybe a guy that was a contributor last year having a great summer and taking that step to become like a true playmaker on the field for the team. So you want to kick us off? Give us your first guy. You'll be shocked to know that mine all play offense. I know you're shocked.
Oh, that is shocking. I wonder if all mine play defense. Yes, they do. I'll go with Jalen Redmond. I think he's going to be productive. I think he's done some really good things. I think that whenever you look at him, you say, hey, this guy is going to be he's going to be the number one producer on the defensive line. And that may be the case. But this is going to be his 5th year at OU. Spent a lot of time injured, spent a lot of time playing inconsistent football in the shadows. He's going to be 5 years in and has not played to his potential 1 year yet. So I think I'm kind of talking to myself here because this is something that I threw out as a going to happen, that it's expected that he's just going to step up and be the dude. And I think that may be that expectation is really bucking what the trend his entire career has been. He didn't just all of a sudden stumble across a massive amount of talent. It's been there the entire time. So the question is, as a new staff, a new defensive line coach, a new strength coach, been able to help get him closer to his best? Or is it the same thing where it doesn't matter? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's my question with Jalen Redmond, which, he's talented enough to just be kind of there and play really good football at times and still may be the most productive guy on the defensive line. But is he squeezing absolutely everything he can out of his talent? So far through the first 4 years, the answer has been, disappointingly, without a doubt, no, he has not. And frankly, I would say that the spring was not good enough and kind of disappointing. So I would say that the summer is almost the last shot. You know this, Gabe. You can't decide all of a sudden, first week of the season, your 5th year at OU, to say, hey, now I'm going to go make some money. Now I'm going to turn it on. It doesn't work that way. He may be out of time if he flipped the switch right now. There's maybe too much time that's left to not totally developing yourself to the best of your ability. So I think it may be the most crucial summer of anyone on the team for Jalen Redmond. And unfortunately, and I hate saying this, if the past predicts the future, I'm scared we get more of the same.
I'm with you, and they need him to be a playmaker, man. And it's probably important to acknowledge, like, he's had some bad luck along the way, right? The blood clot thing, like, that was scary. That was who knows what his career looks like if he doesn't have to go through it. But he's been banged up several times the last couple of years, missed a lot of games. But that isn't an excuse for, us hearing things like, hey, Jordan Kelly's the most consistent interior guy. Like, he comes to work every single day. We know what we're going to get. Like, they didn't say that about Jalen Redmond. And if he wants to be great, like, especially along the defensive line, like, being a great defensive lineman, a lot of it has to do with being in great condition, right? Being able to play 3 straight plays at 100% and run to the football and just kind of, raise hell on the field, right? That you have to be in great shape. And I think, watching him over the last couple of years, he hasn't been in great condition. And I know there's been some circumstances that led to that, and it's hard to be in great shape if you're battling injuries. Like, I get that, but people want to talk about him being a first round, second round draft pick. Man, you got to show us at some point, right? Like, you can't just talk about it. Like, and and the frustrating part about him is, like, the flashes where you're just like, oh my God, look at the power that he can generate and just take an offensive lineman straight backwards. Like, that maybe makes it even more frustrating, is because you see those glimpses, and it'd be awfully nice if we just get that guy every snap. I mean, but it all starts with him deciding that he wants to be great, right? And that is, Jerry Schmidt is the man that will force him to do that. Because if you don't bring it every day, you ain't making it through the summer with him. I mean, you're just not. So, yeah, I'm interested to see here in about a month kind of what we're hearing about how the summer went for Jalen Redmond. But you're right, man. It's pivotal for him. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and I frankly think that the ceiling of the defense kind of swings on what you get from Jalen Redmond. If he flipped a switch and turned into an absolute ass kicker on the defensive line, which he's totally capable of, then that's a total game changer for the rest of the guys on that squad.
And not only, I know he's not a super vocal guy, or at least it hasn't seemed that way, right? Being down on the sideline during the games when he's been playing, but your best players, right? And I don't think there's any doubt he's one of the most talented guys they've got on that defense, right? Just pure talent. Man, those guys emerge as leaders in the summer, right? And you want your best players to be your leaders. It makes everything easier for your team.
Yeah,
And
when you have the most physically gifted guys on your team are the leaders in the summer, and back to what you talked about, the most consistent at their position. Now we're talking about something.
Yeah.
Nobody wants an inconsistent guy. And 5 years in, whenever people are talking about how talented you are, that's a slap in the face. At some point, when people are talking about your talent and how much talent you have, it becomes a slap in the face, right? Because it's all unrealized.
Yeah, he's got to put it all together, right? And if he can, watch out. All right, my first guy, clearly I have my bias, right? I tend to think that the center position's pretty important. I think getting high level play, high level leadership, high level communication from your center is the key to a really good offensive line, right? Just that guy setting the table for that group of 5, and then all 5 of you guys working together to play at a really, really high level. I think that all starts with the center being a leader and knowing everything inside and out and getting everyone in the right place and everyone on the same page. And Andrew Raym, he missed a ton of spring ball, right? Basically the majority of it. He's got to get stronger. He needs to make significant strength gains in the summer. Now, I do think he's had an attitude change. I think he's having some more fun. I think he's motivated to become a really good player. Like, I think he's got the right attitude right now and the right approach. But if this offensive line is going to be any good at all, they need him to take a step. Because, listen, Robert Conjal, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. He is a serviceable starter at center. But there's glimpses of what Raym can be, and he needs to have an absolute dynamite summer when it comes to getting stronger and getting more explosive. Now, the technique work, that also needs a lot of work. Like, he's got to quiet down his feet. He's got to get more proactive with his hands. Like, he's got to be more disciplined with his eyes. Like, there's a lot he's got to work on. But being strong and in good shape and powerful and being in great condition is a great way to start playing center at a high level. Because when you're in great shape, you think better. Like, when you're not tired as hell all the time, you're processing quicker, you're communicating better. Like, life is just easier on the field. So I think Andrew Raym having a great summer just might be the most important guy on the team. And maybe it's just because he plays center, and I know what it takes to play that level at a high level, or play that position at a high level. But he's got some raw materials. He's got the nasty you want a guy to have. He needs to have a big time summer when it comes to strength and explosiveness and that development. And if he does that, I think he's got the right mental makeup. I think he can get, the grasp that he needs to have on Levy's offense and what he's calling and what he's doing. But the confidence will grow if he's just stronger. Like, it'll go, like, everything else will ramp up. Like, if you feel like you belong physically, that's how it was for me. When I knew I could hold my own physically, like, the mental part of it, that wasn't tough. But when you start building that confidence, like, hey, I can throw some of these guys around, like, I'm here, like, I belong. That's when everything just starts building. So I think it's a massive summer for him.
Well, and here's something that a lot of people don't think about. There's thinking positions on the field, and then there's you're kind of told what to do positions on the field. And thinking, processing is a massive calorie and energy burn. It requires a lot of energy. So if you are weaker, not in as good of condition, it's going to affect you even more. The strength part you add on is, in my opinion, if you are not, there's guys that have to be technically proficient because they're limited in some strength and athleticism, right?
That's how I was.
And
I wasn't a very strong guy. So it's like, I knew my technique had to be really solid because I just wasn't, like, I wasn't a weight room strong dude. So, like, it was, I completely agree with what you're talking about.
And so imagine being not technically proficient, lacking in strength and conditioning, and playing a position that requires thinking and processing that, you're not at the premium level yet either, experience wise. That you have no margin for error ever. that's miserable football when you have no margin for error. Some guys that are strong as shit are able to pull off things that other guys aren't. You have a bigger margin for error. Some guys that know everything front and back, that are technically proficient, are able to have a bigger margin for error because of those, and they can make up for other issues. The goal, obviously, for everyone is to be able to go across the board to be money, but you're exactly right. Like, that's probably, if you boiled it down, could probably be the key to the majority of his issues.
Yeah. And listen, with the way that they're going to operate offensively, you got to be in great shape, because those other guys, the other guys on the offensive line, and remember, when I was playing for Kevin Wilson and I was playing center in that system, like, it was my job to be able to play at that tempo and process everything for the other four guys.
Yep.
Like, let me tell you what to do. Just worry about, go get lined up, worry about your technique. I'll tell you where we're going. Like, that is on you when you are running offense at the pace they're going to run offense at.
To think about it, if you're listening, go out, spike your heart rate through the absolute ceiling, be out of breath, be in oxygen debt, and then try and yell nonstop and try and like put together mental puzzles in your head as you're doing all of that. It's incredibly difficult. One of the most underrated things is being able to yell and communicate and get people lined up whenever you're totally roasted. Just like you're totally gone. But the last part of it is technique. Your technique is not like, if you're good technique wise, that doesn't mean it stays there in the first quarter and it stays there in the fourth quarter. As your energy drops, as the fatigue sets in, as you lose a ton of fluids, as the heat pounds in on you, as the bumps and bruises throughout the game pile up, the technique starts to drop, man. So like, the best way to help be technically proficient is to be in great shape, man. It's so hard to keep all of that together because it's usually uncomfortable. The great technique is uncomfortable, right? And as you get tired, it gets harder and harder to perform it.
Yeah. So no pressure on Andrew Raym. Not at all. All right. Who's your next guy?
I'm going with Deshaun White. Deshaun White, ton of experience. We know it. He's played a lot of football. We know what we're going to get out of him pretty much game in, game out. And it's not good enough. For his capabilities, in my opinion, it's not good enough. I have high expectations for him. I think that he can be an excellent backer. He's most of the way there. The problem is he's been most of the way there for a while. My opinion from the outside is it's just too casual, right? Maybe too casual with himself and his own expectations and demands of himself. Maybe too casual with the demands and expectations of other players in his room or on his side of the ball or on the team as a whole. And I'm not saying that you necessarily have to step up and be a vocal leader guy or whatever, but you can be demanding without having to sit there and bark and yell at everyone and be a rah guy and say, everyone get your hands in here, let's get a break. Like, you don't have to be that guy, but I think this is an important, it's kind of the same with Jalen Redmond, just to maybe a lesser degree. He doesn't have nearly the talent of Jalen Redmond. He doesn't have as much left to squeeze out, but I still think that there's more there. I do.
Yeah. And we'd have to go through and look at snaps played, but you got to imagine he's played the most snaps out of any guy on that defense.
Yep.
And
has to.
I mean, he needs to use that as a strength clearly and then build on it. And you mentioned being casual. There is, I mean, Schmitty is going to squeeze every ounce he can get out of you, and you cannot be casual about it. I mean, you just can't. So that's going to be interesting to see what type of summer Deshaun White has. Like naturally, when you're that old, like you you are in a leadership position on the team, and he needs there's still physical gains for him to make, but I think that maybe the mindset, like you're saying, is the biggest thing he could get out of working with Schmitty in the summer. Like, because and there are no excuses, don't want to hear the complaints. I don't want you to act too cool. Like, get it done at a high level, be vocal, be a leader, like be the old guy. And I hope Schmitty gets him to kind of embrace all that.
Agree. Yep.
Okay, my next guy, this is kind of an interesting one because I feel pretty good about where OU is heading into the season, wide receiver wise. But I've got Jayden Gibson on my list. And I don't want to put too much pressure on a freshman, right? But if he can add weight, if he can add mass, what strength, whatever you want to call it, right? He just has a body type that really no other player on the roster has. You start thinking about how he could be used situationally in Levy's offense, whether it's, as a third down guy moving the chains with that size, as a red zone target. I think he's more than a jump ball guy. Like, he can run from everything we were able to see in spring, Ted. And this is how I see it. If Jayden Gibson's going to be the next star wide receiver at OU, if star wide receivers make plays as freshmen, right? If you're going to be a star, if you're going to be a guy that is a, first round, second round draft pick, right? Those guys produce as freshmen. They do. So that's where I look at him, and like, clearly little thin, has plenty of room on that frame to add weight, to add muscle. I expect him to look more like a dude compared to what we saw in the spring, like a full summer with Schmitty. Like, that physical development needs to happen. And I think it would just give them a weapon that, and I know Nick Anderson, the kind of similar, but I just think Gibson's, his length, kind of that bounce that he's got, it can bring something that really, I don't know if any other player on the roster can bring to the offense. So that's why I think it's important that he has a good couple months here.
No doubt. CD had a nice freshman campaign. Mims, what broke the freshman record for touchdowns, I believe. I mean, we've seen plenty of freshman wide receivers come out and make an impact early. And CD was a great athlete, no doubt, but I don't know that anyone, we really have we ever even seen a wide receiver that's had the physical tools of a guy like Jayden Gibson?
Not, I mean, you think of, tall and long like that.
There's one I'm thinking of. Oh my gosh. He had a couple of plays, and we kept waiting for him to kind of break out, and it didn't happen.
The only like big physical wide receiver, like DeJuan Miller was a guy that I played with, where you're like, dang, he had some moments where he was a big physical guy, but he wasn't quite as long and as lean as Gibson is. But
I can't believe I can't think of his name. I'll think of it later whenever it's the point is way past. But he's got tools that we haven't seen a whole lot. We've seen some big receivers in this conference. They just haven't been wearing a OU uniform, and it would be awesome to see that on our side for once.
Absolutely. All right, you got anyone else?
Yeah, I've got two more, and I'll hit them kind of quick here. I think Stripling needs to have a good summer. He's been flying under the radar, and going to practice some through the spring and watching him in one-on-ones, dude, he has some incredible natural pass rushing ability. But there haven't been a whole lot of expectations placed on him. And, with those expectations and with the weight of kind of being looked to be one of the premier pass rushers, you've got to kind of change your behavior around the rest of the team and start demanding more of yourself, of others, stepping into a role of holding people accountable. However you manage that, that's up to each individual guy on how to manage that. But bigger, faster, stronger, and continuing to hone in on those skills, those natural skills that he has, and also become as familiar as possible with this defense. Eliminate all of the other things, thinking, processing, trying to figure out where you're lined up, what your responsibility is, trying to eliminate all of those things and unleash your physical gifts.
Yeah. And it's a confidence thing also. I mean, he hadn't made a ton of plays in his career, right? What do you have, like 1 sack last year? Didn't play a ton. With the way he played in spring, like he looked like a different player by the end of spring practice. Like looked like a guy that believed in himself and believed that he can impact the game. So if that confidence carries over to spring, he certainly can add a little more weight, right? He was about 240-ish during spring ball. I would prefer him to be 250-ish, but it's going to be interesting to see what he looks like physically. But I think just him feeling like he's going to be a key contributor, right? You can develop some confidence. You can develop some leadership in summer workouts. And if his teammates acknowledge that he's going to be a guy that's going to be a big time contributor, I think the confidence just continues to grow and grow through these workouts.
Last one I have quickly, Ethan Downs. The guy does absolutely everything that's asked of him. He plays as hard as he possibly can. I think he needs to hone his skills as a pass rusher, but step out of the comfort zone of being like a super nice guy. You can still be that, but also make everyone do the same things that you do. Like you're doing everything that's asked of you with a great attitude and with great effort. Okay, that's not enough. Now start getting every single other person on the team to do it with you. And I think that's going to come for him. He's just going into his true sophomore year, but I believe this kid could be, who knows how good he could be. That's the tools that he has.
Yeah, and we've talked about it. Like the effort is exactly what you want. And now it's time to develop. And what people may not realize about summer workouts is it's not just lifting and running. Like there's a lot of skill development that goes into it. Like you're doing extra work with the guys in your position group. Like there's a lot of other things that you are working on in the summer. And
it's time to do things on your own. Like take an honest evaluation of what your weakness is and where you need to get better and spend that time on your own some developing.
Yeah. And for Downs, it's, hey, we don't just be known as the guy that plays really hard. Be known as the guy that plays really hard and has great technique and just throws dudes around because he's always got 2 hands in their chest and, can detach and like all that. Be that guy, right? Become a guy that's got 3 or 4 go-to pass rush moves. Don't just be the guy that is running around the field like a maniac, which you definitely don't want that to go away, but it's time to start refining the toolbox, right?
It's a great place to start. It's where you want everyone to start.
Absolutely. Okay, I got 2 more. I'll hit them quick. Marcus Major. I feel like the entire fan base is hoping that Marcus Major has a great summer. Now, clearly, Eric Gray, he's reliable back, but when you look at Major's physical skill set and how that applies to kind of this mid zone running scheme that Levy loves to utilize, like Major just fits right in. But I think he's plenty fast. I think he's plenty explosive. I think one of the keys for him in the summer, adding some flexibility, right? Adding, because, it always seems like a soft tissue thing with him here and there, ankle, like all these different things, like maybe some yoga, some Pilates for our man Major. Like, not only are you adding explosiveness and strength, but like flexibility, and which I think really helps with your durability. So that is also something that Schmidt is huge into, stretching, those dynamic stretch, all of that stuff. I think that's going to do Marcus Major some good, because I just want to see the kid healthy, right? I just want to see him play a full season healthy. And I know that's asking a lot for a running back, but I think that, that aspect of things, I know that's probably kind of weird for people to hear, but like if he can add some flexibility, some stability to where maybe he's not getting nicked up as much, I think that'd be very good for him and for what he does this season.
Yeah. I feel good about that for one reason. In the past, it's been okay and it's been comfortable to be a little banged up.
Correct.
And to sit out and let's take this practice off. Let's hold you out. And man, my brother works his tail off. One of the hardest workers maybe the hardest workers I've ever known. When the workday starts, my brother does not go back into the air conditioning. So once you get into the air conditioning and you sit down for lunch and you fill your belly in that nice, cool restaurant or wherever you are, man, it's hard as hell to get back out there in the sun and get the work done. So once you've rolled an ankle and everyone told you, go sit down, go hang out over there on the side, you're done for the day or you're done for the week. And, there's a couple of guys in front of you. It just becomes really comfortable. And I think it's going to be a lot less comfortable for some of that stuff to continue to hang around. And the other thing is, I hope some of this stuff, like you're talking about with him, I hope he has a great summer and is ready to come out in the fall, because speaking as a linebacker, if they're standing the running backs over there and they ask, who do you want to play running back during the game? I'm pointing to Eric Gray. Put him in there. I'm fine with that all day. That's okay. I am last one to be picked, Marcus Major. The ball of muscle that runs like, Sonic the Hedgehog. That you don't want to tackle that. You especially don't want to tackle that whenever you're down 10 in the fourth quarter and they've been going up tempo the whole game and you're worn out. He is the last person on the sideline you want to see jog onto the field. I think he has the potential to be a massive weapon for him.
Yeah, and my last guy, it's all about the potential. I feel good about everything I've heard about Anton Harrison and Wanye Morris, like the attitude adjustment, how invested they are now, the physical development that they made during spring and they're continuing to make during summer. But you want your most talented players on the field. And Savion Byrd may just be the most talented guy in that room. And maybe it's tackle, maybe it's guard. I don't know. But I think he's arguably the most talented guy in that offensive line room. Now, he's overcome some off the field stuff, and I think he's worked through all that. And I really think if he can have a great summer, if Schmitty can mold him, and what's the best way to put it? Maximize toughness, I don't know the best way to put it. Like if he can shift that mentality a little bit and make Savion realize kind of what it takes from a day-to-day standpoint to be great and the type of investment it takes, I think he can be a guy that can be an early round draft pick. He's got that physical ability. I mean, he does. And when you've got a guy with that physical ability, you got to get it to translate to the field. You just have to figure it out. And I'm hoping that, you know, this summer is the start of Savion Byrd really figuring it out, because he's too talented not to, man. He gets this is where it starts, Ted. I've got faith.
I like it, and I've heard the same stuff, and ton of potential. And yeah, I'd like your opinion. It seems like if all of that stuff does like fire into place, this system and what they do, this new running game kind of fits his attitude and skill set quite a bit better, right?
Yeah. I mean, he moves really well. You can just look at him physically. Like he's thick in all the right places, man. Yeah. And it's the attitude, it's the focus, it's embracing the day-to-day grind that it takes to be great. And if he can do that, man, I'm hoping that a summer with Schmitty can help him develop the attitude that it takes. We'll see.